Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel, and I don't know what I expect and I don't know what you expect. This will be my first video. Hopefully it won't be the last one. Uh, I decided to start this channel and do these videos basically because I'm not real happy with the state that our country's in. So before we get started, today is September 11th, 2024. I'd like to take a minute and remember those 2,977 people that perished on September 11th, 2001 in New York City and Pennsylvania and Washington, D.C. If we could just have just a moment to recognize those, then we'll get started. Thank you. Thank you very much. So here we are, day after the debate, September 11th, and I don't know how you feel. I know how I feel. Last night was, depending on which side you're for, last night was either a wonderful night or a shameful performance. So I originally thought, my original thought process when I started this channel was I was going to try and stay away from anything that could be deemed, offensive or political or, well, just anything. My plan was to be just run of the mill, and over the last week, this channel thoughts have gone through a lot of iterations. I originally thought that I'd make a YouTube channel that was kind of like the Seinfeld sitcom. It was going to be the YouTube channel about nothing. The more, you'd show up one day and we'd be barbecuing ribs. You show up one day, we'd be fixing a squeaky door. You show up one day, we'll be playing with the dog. And then the more I sit and I listen to the people on the television that are supposed to be giving us our news, and it used to be when I was a kid growing up, news came on at 6:30, you watched the world news. News came on at 6, you watched your local news from 6 to 6:30, from 6:30 to 7, then you watched your world news. And some of us remember Walter Cronkite, sorry. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself and my tongue gets a little tied. Dan Rather, those guys. And that's where we got the majority of our news. And it was, regardless of what was going on in the world, or in the situation they were reporting on, it seemed, at least back then, and maybe it was because I was younger and just didn't know any different, but it seemed to be a whole lot less partisan. Now, you know, one political party watches one channel, one political party watches another channel, uh, you know, and news has gotten to where they report what they feel like their audience wants to hear and the side that their audience wants to hear. Well, I'm here to tell you that I like to hear both sides of the story. So, if there's you know, you may, I don't want you to put spin on the news. Um, News should be put out for people to make their own informed and rational decisions about. To me, that's not what's happening. Not in today. So, first off, let me say that I'm not a registered Republican or a registered Democrat. I'm actually just registered to vote. I'm not affiliated with any political party. I've voted for both. Um, Basically, I vote based off of who I feel like's going to do the better job. Um, did I vote for George Bush? Yes. Did I vote for Bill Clinton? Yes. Did I vote for John McCain? Yes. Did I vote for Barack Obama? Yes. I will say, oh, I guess somebody's here. We'll find out if they walk around here. Um, that the political landscape has become so divided that I am afraid for the future of this country. I'm not personally afraid, I don't think. Um, Last night during the debate, our former president said that we're on the cusp of a World War III, and yeah, I can kind of see that. We American people have become so divided and so set in their opinions on things. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know what we do to stop that. I will say that the longer that the country goes on, the longer you live, I guess, the more you learn. The more you learn, the better person you are. I don't know everything. Um, I know when I was a kid, I used to think I did. And the older I get, the more I realize that you don't know everything. And the best thing that you can do is listen to other people's opinions and shut up. close your mouth and open your ears. Use that thing between your ears and come up with an educated, informed opinion. Um, I will say in this election, I will be supporting the Harris Walls ticket. Now, for some of you, you may have just turned off the video. Some of you are probably still listening. For those of you that are still listening, I'm going to give you some reasons as to why. In my obviously white, non-college educated opinion, that everybody says, oh, Trump's doing so wonderful with the white, non-college educated males. Okay. Just because we are non-college educated doesn't mean we don't have an opinion, and it doesn't mean we're not halfway intelligent. I kind of take offense to it sometimes. I sit around and I listen to all these people talk, and they talk and they talk and they talk and they really don't say nothing. I watched an entire debate last night, and well, both of the candidates last night, in my opinion, avoided some things. um, they didn't tackle the issues directly, but then again, I guess if they did, they wouldn't be politicians, would they? As a Gulf War veteran, I sit and I wonder, what kind of country am I leaving for my grandchildren? Do I want to leave my grandchildren a country where if a politician doesn't win an election, we're going to overthrow the government in order to stay in office? Personally, for me, no. Um, I'm not about leaving that for my grandchildren. Do I want to live in a country where my grandchildren have more rights than I do? Yes, I do. I feel like that the more this country progresses, the more opportunities we should have. Um, I wasn't alive in the 60s. I wasn't alive for segregation. And in my heart now, I guess you can say, because I grew up the way I did, I fully believe that segregation is a bad thing. Now, there are people out there that would like to go back to those times. I live in an area that there's probably a lot of people around me that would like to go back to those times. But your ex girlfriend, your ex boyfriend, they're exes for a reason. So we don't try and go back and revisit that. We got rid of those people. Got them out of our lives. So what do you do? Well, the first thing that you've got to do is you've got to research a candidate. Now, I don't want anybody here to take away that I'm telling you who to vote for. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to give you my reasons why I'm voting the way I am. If you don't vote the same way I do, that's okay. You're still important to me. Um, I think everybody has that right. I choose to tell you who I'm voting for and why. President Trump, former President Trump, when he didn't get his outcome that he wanted from his election, decided that he was going to figure out a way to stay in power. We all watched it. We all know the stories. We should not be having to rehash this entire situation. I look at the news and I'm like, everybody says that they think that Trump would be better for the economy than Vice President Harris. And, was I better off 4 years ago? Yeah, you were better off 4 years ago. No doubt that you were better off 4 years ago. But consider this. 4 years ago, we had a global pandemic. People were at home. They weren't going to work. Unless you were, as I was at the time, an essential employee. Carried a little piece of paper around in the glove compartment of my car in case I got pulled over to show that I was an essential employee and I had the need to be on the road, not at home locked down. Thank goodness for me, because that would have drove me crazy. It's kind of why I'm starting this YouTube channel, because I've come into some medical issues that have kept me at home now, kind of as if I was locked down during the pandemic. And I'm a people person, and I like to get out, and I like to see people, and I like to talk to people, and I like to interact, and I can't do that now. So basically these videos are going to be my interaction with people. So if you like what you see, click subscribe. Now, I've said that I will be supporting the Harris Walls campaign. And I would also like to say that I try and call things down the middle. Um, my son used to get on me when I was, you know, umpiring baseball when he was in Little League. Ain't that? Couldn't you have made that call go our way just a little bit? Yeah. No, man. You lost that game on your own. The calls weren't bad. The calls were good. I called it fair. I called it right down the middle. So I try and think of things like that. I try and make my opinions based off of all of the information. So when I sit and I listen to these politicians, they say that, oh, Trump lost 8 million jobs during the pandemic, gave us the worst unemployment since the Depression, blah, blah, blah. I don't know that that is right down the middle. Trust me when I tell you that I am by no means, no stretch of the imagination, am I a Trump supporter. I have personal family dealings, and yeah, so I have people in my family that have had dealings with Donald Trump before he was ever a candidate, and it kind of left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. No pun intended. Um, so did he lose 8 million jobs? My dog doesn't seem to think so. Uh, no, I don't feel like Trump lost 8 million jobs. Um, did we lose 8 million jobs under Trump's watch? Yeah, we did. Were we in the middle of a global pandemic? Were people being made to stay at home? Were, were businesses shuttering up, closing down, laying people off? Yeah. Did he do that? I don't know that you can fully blame him for doing what he did during the presidency. I mean, we have to consider that, it nothing like this had happened in 100 years. Nobody had an idea of how to handle it, what to do. Everybody was caught off guard. We were kind of winging it, fake it till you make it. Now, by the same token, for Biden and Harris to come in and say they created 14 million jobs, I don't necessarily know that I buy that either. I feel like, part of those 14 million jobs that you created were the businesses that opened back up and put people back to work and went from there. So these are the things that you really need to consider when you're talking about somebody that's going to have their finger on the button. Speaking of the button, for only a very few times since I've been alive, has a former or sitting U.S. president actually mentioned nuclear weapons. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. That you have a candidate that is willing to talk about the fact that we could be on the brink of World War III. A war unlike anybody's ever seen because it'll involve nuclear weapons. Go back and look at the debate. It's not verbatim what he said, but it's pretty daggone close. We live in a time when I was a kid, we had tornado and hurricane drills. Now, our kids live in a time where when they go to school, they don't know if they're coming home. Even in my time in the military, there were a couple times that, we questioned whether we were going to make it home or not. But for the most part, we knew when we left our house that day that we'd be coming back that night. And if we didn't, that's what we signed on for. I don't feel like that children going to school sign on for that. They shouldn't be worried about whether somebody's going to come through the door and start opening fire on anybody in the class. They ought to be worried about teachers are going to find out I didn't do my homework last night. But apparently we don't worry about that anymore. Give me just a second. I'm going to try something here. No, that didn't work at all, did it? Okay, so we'll put it back. It's a nice sunny day out, so I got a little sun glare on the screen. Now, I'm also not one of these people that's going to sit here and, bitch about gun reform. I'm a gun owner. I own guns. I have loaded guns in my house. Now, with that said, I have responsible adults that live in my house. I don't have any children here anymore. All of my children are grown and gone. When the grandbabies come around, the guns are put away and they're safe. But our kids shouldn't have to worry about that. We should not live in a time where our kids have to worry whether they're going to see mom and dad at the end of the day. So, as a responsible gun owner, I say that I don't know what responsible gun reform looks like. I've tried to sit and think about it. And I can understand the dilemma that the people in Washington have. Um, I know that banning weapons is not going to happen in the United States. Not going to happen in my house. So that's not it. I know that everybody, every time you turn on the TV, a new mass shooter has shot somebody with an AR-15. Let me back up, because it's a little misleading, and I don't want to mislead anybody. Most of the mass shootings that are happening now happen with an AR-15 platform. AR, for those of you that don't know or are just doing research, does not stand for automatic rifle. So when you say an assault weapons ban, then you have to think about what that looks like. And the biggest complaint for people is that the AR-15 will fire as many rounds as you can pull the trigger. So will that 9mm in there in the drawer. Deadliest mass shooting in the United States, Virginia Tech, happened with a handgun. Do I think people need to own AR style weapons? It's kind of like voting, man. It's a matter of personal choice. Do I think that there is a practical use for AR style weapons? Personally, no. You can achieve the same results with different weapons. The problem becomes that if you're going to have an assault weapons ban, then you're going to have to define what an assault weapon is, and that's going to lead you to being semi-automatic. So you're going to ban every gun in America that is semi-automatic? Good luck. I don't know that I don't know what the answer is. But I think there's enough people that are smart enough in this country that we can put together some legislation that everybody can agree on, whether it's magazine capacities. Just imagine, for example, mass shooter goes into school carrying 30 round clips for their AR style weapon. If your argument is you have that AR for hunting purposes, if you can't hit that deer in 2 shots, living out here, as you can tell from my backdrop, I can tell you, you're not going to get a third one. So those other 29 shots that you've got, you have no use for. So I think maybe it's magazine capacities. I don't know that I'd be opposed to that. It would also give our children or people trying to protect our children time, because if you've got an 11 round magazine, let's say, and you've shot your 11 rounds, you want to continue your shooting, now you got to reload the gun. Some people are quicker than others, and it ain't all Hollywood. But I will tell you that the time it takes you to reload that gun, if you're in a situation, more than likely somebody's going to be on you. We live in a time now when my daughters don't have the same rights that their mothers did. And that is that's upsetting. We should be moving forward, not backwards, people. The government should not have a right to tell me what I can do with my body, or my wife, or my daughter, or my granddaughter, or your daughter, or anybody's daughter, or anybody, not just daughters. So where do we go? Well, Donald Trump put the Supreme Court justices in place that overturned Roe versus Wade. Now, if you hear him tell it, he says that he just gave it back to the states. Let the states decide on what they want to do individually as a state. Okay. That's it's probably not a bad idea. However, there are extremists on both sides. Let's not pretend there's not. I think personally that the general population I'm going to go out on a limb and say 85% of the population of the United States are reasonable. Let's go with 85%. Now, the other 15, they're not reasonable. Unfortunately, the other 15% are in positions to make new laws and decisions that affect the other 85%. And the way you fix that is by voting. Uh, if you don't agree with what I say, you have the option of turning this video off. If you do agree with what I say, then you have the opportunity to keep listening to this video. Voting works the same way. If your politicians in office are saying things that you don't agree with, get together, vote them out. Start with your city council, your school board members. Go all the way up, straight on up to the presidency, because it starts at the local levels. If you make your changes locally, then your changes will slowly start to take effect nationally. While we're on that topic, people seem to think that they are, dead set in their ways and their ways right. I know what I want. I don't care what anybody else wants. And that, I think, has become the problem with the American people. When I was growing up, we knew all our neighbors. People came by the house. Families got together for Sunday dinner. And you stuck together. If your neighbor needed something and you had it, then, it wasn't anything for my father to take a wrench over to the guy next door because he was working on his car and he lost his 10 millimeter. Everybody loses their 10 millimeter. Sockets, wrenches. Now, I'd almost guarantee you, if you're watching this video, that you're lucky if you know your neighbor's names. When I grew up, better be back in this house before street lights come on. And Mama Leone on the corner, she would beat your butt just as quick as your mama would. Because neighborhoods looked out for everybody. If I was in a neighborhood and I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing, and one of the other adults in the neighborhood saw me, I was going to get it from them, and then I was going to get it when I got home too. We need to be more worried about looking up for one another, and for no other way to say it, and not trying to promote, but Vice President Harris said it best last night. We need to be lifting people up instead of tearing them down. I am running out of time right now, so I'm just going to try and wrap this up. There'll be more on this video to come. There'll be a part 2, so check back, or it may even be here now. I don't know. Depends on how I'm feeling. Try and get the dog to quit barking, and let's get out and vote, people. Make your voices heard. Let your opinions be known, regardless of what they are, whether they align with mine or don't. But if you don't vote, don't bitch. You have a voice, use it. If you choose not to use it, you kind of get the hand you're dealt. I'm going to use mine. I'm going to try and use it on every platform that I can come up with, because I have gotten to the point to where I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. I am sick and tired of hearing people put everybody down. I'm sick and tired of turning on the news and hearing about another mass shooting. I'm sick and tired of turning on the news and hearing about another Donald Trump court case. I'm sure he's pretty sick of it too. And he probably wishes they'd all go away too. So let's move forward, people. Get out and vote. Do some soul searching. You got a little over 50 days. So do some soul searching. See what you feel in your heart. And politics aside, this election is about our country. And Benjamin Franklin said that I've given you a republic if you can keep it. I don't know if we've been any closer in time as a country to losing that right now. So that's my take for today. And now I'm gonna I'm going to put this in the can and I'm going to go ahead and publish it. And after I finish that, we might go back to part 2. But vote your conscience, vote your feelings. Just vote.